All right, let's go ahead and please sit down, and we'll go ahead and begin this meeting of the Port Arthur Area Shrimpers Association. I want to welcome you. Uh, Usually these can be a pretty depressing thing. You know, it's like we would talk about a dumping of shrimp, trafficking of labor at aquaculture facilities throughout the world, and the potential for hurricanes. You know, why are we here then? But really, we have a lot to celebrate today because of the work of the Federal Trade Commission, because of the Texas State Legislature and what they have done, and Governor Abbott has signed. Some really positive things have taken place. And so there's much to celebrate, and we want to welcome everybody to this meeting. We're going to be sharing some important information with you during this time. I'm going to do two more things. I'm going to do an opening prayer, and then I'm going to give you the financial status of the Shrimpers Association. I want to emphasize strongly, if you have not given me your $50 yet, or the lady in the narthex first, to be a member of the Port Arthur Shrimpers Association, please sign up for that in the back. That will be very helpful to her and also keep us going. There's been some unusual or special expenses this year during the legislative session. We had the reserves to be able to do that and send people to Austin in order to connect with them and tell them what was going on. But that was because a couple of years ago we had a really good membership drive that took place at that point. So please keep that in mind, and I'll talk to you more about that later on. So if you have not gotten your certificate from me for 2025 of being a member of the Port Arthur Area Shrimpers Association, often mentioned by the Associated Press with the Southern Shrimp Alliance. That was so bizarre. It's so bizarre to be called a leader in the advocacy for the shrimpers for shrimping in the United States. It's like, God, we're in bad shape. Anyway, let us pray. O Lord our God, you are the creator of the land and the sea, and you have blessed us with great fishing boats and the skills to set out from these shores and harvest your abundant blessings of shrimp and seafood. As we gather today, send your blessing upon the work that we will do. May it always make us good stewards of your creation and caretakers of your waters. We give you thanks this year for the work of the Texas Legislature and the Federal Trade Commission that have given us such relief from the dumping of shrimp products on our shores. May the relationship that we have developed this year continue to grow and bring further greater awareness of the importance of the harvesting work that we do and how it provides food for our fellow citizens. And we ask this in your name. Amen. So last thing, and I'll probably even be on time according to Nikki, is just to give you a heads up as where we are right now in the statement that we received from the bank. Our bottom line in the bank right now is $6,847. And we'll pick up a few. I saw that we'll pick up a few more dollars from membership that took place today. However, that is in light of the balance that we had back in January of $10,326.59. So the shift there sort of is reflective of the expenses that we incurred during this time of going to meetings, going to Austin, taking care of hotels to put these meetings together. It probably costs us about $1,000 by the time we take care of the food, take care of the donation to the senior, take care of your membership is very important. As I said, if you haven't paid your dues yet, please do so. I can say that as the head of the Apostleship of the Sea, I'm a proud member of the Port Arthur Area Shrimpers Association, besides being the treasurer for that. It is a piece of business that we do need to take on, though, is that I'm the only signatory on the checking account. So we will need to put into some thinking about adding a couple more people on there. I do ride motorcycles. That means that I have to be very aware of my mortality in the process. So as y'all are thinking about this meeting, maybe think about having some more people to come and be part of the as signatories on it. So, Nikki, Kyle Kimball, president of the Shrimpers Association. Huh? Yep, Kyle is here. And how? Oh my goodness, I'm on time. How it's you realize it's a sign of the end times.
Usually she hands me paperwork, so I kind of know what to say. So we're just going to do the best we can. When he talks about the membership, we went out a lot this year, running and doing places. We had a lot of the representatives there that helped us. We made our way around the capitals, and some of them weren't real receptive at first, but when they found out things that were going on, it came out really, really well. They were real receptive. They helped us. They helped write bills. This stuff just, it multiplied. There's other states that are putting out things too. You're going from North, South Carolina through Georgia, and all the way up through Gulf of America, whatever you want to call it, for our areas. But everybody has joined in and helped in the process of this. We started mentioning some of the problems with the shrimp, with the farm raised being, basically contaminated. And there's a bunch of other words they use with antibiotics and other things that are on them. People became aware of this. They were worried about what they're eating. People are becoming more and more aware of what they're eating now. So they want to make sure whatever they're eating is proper. And it's amazing when people find out what the food has on it, and then all of a sudden they say, well, we didn't know this, we didn't know that. Well, what it basically all this boiled down to was our domestic shrimp, people are demanding it now. And so we are basically running out of domestic shrimp or running low. And of course, we got a fellow over here that's got a lot of statistics. So hopefully, he'll be talking here in a little while. And she's got all the rest of the paperwork here on anything and everything. She's kept up with everything on paperwork, and we've got paperwork to back it up for as actual documented from NOAA, FDA, and any other paperwork we have. When we was up there talking, it wasn't just talk. It was actual paperwork that we handled them. And when you handle them actual paperwork and they start reading, where it actually comes from their own federal government and people out, in the opening, understanding of what's going on, it makes a lot of difference than just going up there and talking. I can say anything I want up here and you just listen to it. But when you hand out paperwork, it makes all the difference in the world. So we went through a lot. And I guess I'll let her handle it. I kind of be here with her the best I can and let her tell y'all whatever. And if y'all have any questions, ask along the way. We'll try to answer anything that y'all have. If y'all got something that y'all want us to check in on when we're in these places, send us the information and we'll do our best to see what we can do about getting that represented.
I'd like to introduce Representative Terry Leo Wilson. She was one of the sponsors of House Bill 823. I'm sorry, Senate Bill 823. There were 3 other bills that she sponsored that didn't make it, but we got 2. And also HCR 76, which passed as well with Representative AJ Louderback. If you want to come say a few words, man.
Oh, I can.
Yes.
Oh, goody.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for being here and for inviting me. I really, really appreciate it. Just a little bit about my background is I grew up on a farm. And when I went off to college, as you know, farming, just like harvesting, is very hard work. My husband grew up on a dairy farm. So we are no stranger to what harvesting, what communities, what farmers, what all of you bring to our communities. You really are the lifeblood of everything we do. If you guys don't do well, we don't do well in the end. And so I was very much impacted. I don't know if you remember, some of you are old enough to remember Farm Aid. During the very beginning of the 80s, I went off to college, and all of my friends and their families, including my own, started losing their farms. And it was an experience that impacted me greatly because farms, just like you guys, have had your boats in generations of families and passed down to your children and to your grandchildren. And that's how it was for me when I first moved to Galveston in 2020. I'm just kind of we moved there to actually retire, not do this. But because I got to know people and because I see your faces, that was one of the reasons I ran for office. Is I live right on the beach, and I started noticing I love the shrimp boats. They're just so beautiful to me. And I loved looking out my window and watching the shrimpers every day during season go back and forth and back and forth. I just loved it. I couldn't get enough pictures. I think your boats are beautiful. And then I saw less and less and less. And I was like, what is going on? And so I went down to where most of the shrimp boats are docked, and they started telling me their stories, and that they just couldn't get a livelihood. It's multifaceted. The problem is, as you know, the cost of fuel, the not having tariffs, which hopefully that will help a little bit, and some of the things that they're doing. But you guys have regulations that other countries don't have. So, and then all of the 11 billion pounds of imported shrimp have not helped. So all of those factors combined. And so I asked my district director from Chambers County, who had talked to one of the commissioners over there that have been at your meetings before, Jimmy Gore. I asked her to attend your meetings and go find out exactly what is going on and how can we help on a state level. So that's kind of how I got involved, but it was really deep rooted from really when I was a girl. And just remembering that experience of sitting on the porch and watching, 5 or 6 farm auctions go on every single weekend. I furnished my whole first house, and it's sad, but I furnished it with buying, going to those auctions and buying a bed for, an antique Jenny Lind bed for $10. I mean, people were just basically giving their stuff away because there were so many farms being lost all at the same time. So, but I never forget that experience, watching people sit on their steps with tears in their eyes, knowing that it was their generation that lost it. And so that really impacted me. And so I was like, I can't just sit by and do nothing. So that was really the impetus. I'm sorry, I'm a crier. And I never thought that was one thing that surprised me in office. I always thought I'd care so much about my big education bills. I'm a 38-year retired school teacher, and I just have a passion for education. And I thought those would be the pieces of legislation that would mean the most to me. But honestly, it's you guys. I mean, I know that many of you could not be there to testify on behalf of the bill, and I had to be your voice because you were out working and doing what you every day do, up, at, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, wherever time you get up. I know it's very early, and you get to have that life on that boat. But it's also really hard sometimes, and it's day after day, and it's just like milking cows. There's no break. You can't wait. You gotta go while the catch is there. So that meant a lot to me. But when I always think that when I lose a local bill, those are the ones I got most upset about. I just thought it would be the big stuff, and it's not. It was the little stuff. It was coming home and having to look in my shrimpers in the eye, Pops, who's 92 years old, and in Galveston, some of you kind of follow his daughter-in-law. But and so she brought a lot of great exposure to the shrimping industry as well. But when I met with the speaker in January, he asked me what my priorities bills were, and I was like, okay, they're all priority, or I wouldn't have filed them. But you have to really pick. And so I did pick. And one of my big bills, I said, was my shrimp bill. I said, I've got 3 bills that are really priority that I want to get done this session. And so, as you know, the people that helped testify and came, we had a great deal of difficulty with the restaurant industry. And the good actors in the restaurant industry want the bill. They supported the bill because they're hurt by the bad actors as well that advertise that they have Gulf Coast shrimp, but then they don't. So we had a lot of good restaurants that, were supportive, but the industry as a whole did not like the bills. And so we filed 3 of them all together, and changed one that was a fourth. And so hoping that one would stick, and that if one got a hearing, then we'd go with that one and we'd amend it along the way. So we had a lot of difficulty getting a hearing. I worked all of January and February with the restaurant industry and the retailers, with H-E-B and all of the big grocery stores. The chairman of the committee was not going to hear it if I didn't take out the retailers. And so even though I had 11 votes on that committee, all of the committee members supported it. And fortunately, there's 4 or 5 very young members on that committee that are state representatives who really care about what they're putting in their bodies, what they're eating. My kids are that way. I mean, I fed them Fruit Loops, for God's sakes, and they're like, don't give our kids Fruit Loops, and I'm like, are Cheerios okay? No, they have chemicals. So they're very conscious and aware of what they're eating, and they want truth in advertising. They wanted the bill. And so we had to work with the chairman that really did not want the bill. And that was a very difficult task. So we ended up just taking the retailers out of the bill. That's not ideal. And working with the restaurant industry, I don't know, truth in advertising, very simple labeling bill. That did not go well either. The chairman delayed, and there's a million ways to kill a bill, which is kind of good. You don't want this, you don't want your legislators. That's why Texas only has their legislation or legislators meeting once every other year for 5 months. They don't want a billion laws. They want less government, and they want less government regulations and restrictions and taxes and all the things that we do whenever we're there. They don't want us really there very long. So it is a very time-consuming crunch. This session was the most bills filed. Almost 6,000 bills from the House side were filed, the most in Texas history. So we're competing with all of those other bills to get a hearing. So finally, in March, that very first week, I did get a hearing, but it was delayed and delayed and delayed. And the bill analysis, oh, well, that's taking too long to get done, da, 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 da. And I was really, really frustrated because the clock is ticking. Once the House can hear a bill that's not on a priority bill, which would be this one, is like March 15th. So we can't have a hearing until then. Because that's in the Texas Constitution, but only for the House chamber. So the Senate side can go ahead and hear bills and get them moving. Anyway, so we had a lot of difficulty with every juncture of the House bill, all 3 of them. So basically, they all ran out of time. They finally got there, but that was intentional, I believe. So I had my back pocket play, which was to get the Senate bill over. So Senator Mays Middleton carried the Senate bill. He did magic getting it out because at the end of the Senate session, they're a little bit, the 2 chambers function very different. But at the end of the Senate session, they're only allowed like 2 bills on the floor because they're hearing tons of House bills come over now. And same thing with us. Once we finish the House bills, now we're hearing all Senate bills. So the chambers swap. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to give up one of my priority bills for the shrimp bill. And so I said, Mays, would you do it for me? Please, 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 I'm begging you. I said, it's the only way it will make it, and I have an oppositional chair. And God would have it, right after I had the conversation with Mays Middleton, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick came over to the House to work on another bill, and he asked me how it was going. And he saw I had tears in my eyes because I wear my heart on my sleeve. Everyone around there said, don't wear your heart on your sleeve. I'm like, but that's who I am. I don't know how to do it any other way. I was just between mad, frustrating, crying. And so he could tell. And he said, what's wrong? I said, I cannot get my shrimp bill out of committee. He said, can I help? And I said, yes, you can. I said, could you talk to the chairman for me? So he marched over to her desk. And he talked to her right then and there and said, where's that bill analysis? Like, they don't take that long. Like, stop. Don't give me those excuses, And so as soon as he left the chamber, she came over to my desk and was very, very mad at me. But I got my bill analysis out the next morning. So everything was kind of the perfect storm at the end, and God was on our side. And then what happened was we got it finally over to the House, and I went to the Speaker of the House, who is the only person that could have done this for us. Is I said, do you remember my conversation in January? This is my priority bill. I have to have this bill. I said, if you send it back to that same committee, it will die. And that's where they send the bills back to the same committee that had the hearings and whatnot. I said, you're the only person that could overplay that and send it to a different committee. And he said, well, where would you like it sent? So I look over the membership of the committees, and I want a unanimous vote. So I found the committee that I think the bill would fit with a unanimous support. I went and worked all of the members of the committee. I had all yeses. So I went to the Speaker and I said, he didn't say yes or no, but I said, I need it sent to Will Metcalf's committee. And he goes, okay. Duly noted, and didn't say if it was yes or no, but the next morning my bill was in Will Metcalf's committee. It was at the tail end. He voted it out for me in 2 hours. And sent it to local and consent, which means that everybody agreed in the committee, and it didn't have to go to the general calendar, which I was worried it would get killed there as well. So it went to local and consent and sailed on through from that point. So, you just leave no stone unturned. Every action that you have is a retaliatory measure. The restaurant industry is not happy, but fortunately, we also removed all the dyes from breakfast food from our school cafeterias, dyes that have been outlawed in Europe and in Canada. So they were more mad at somebody else, and that kind of took some of the heat off the shrimp bill, which helped. And that chairman, it was her bill, and she heard it in her own committee. So she got her own bill out because it was her committee that heard the bill. She got it directed to her committee. So when you're a chairman, you can do some things like that. And she also did a lot on health and, just making people aware of the chemicals that we ingest daily and how healthy, not just Gulf Coast shrimp is, but, healthy it is to buy local and to really support our farming industry and, our fishing industry. It's not just the shrimpers. So for next session, we will go back and get more. It wasn't everything we wanted, I will tell you that. We got a truth in advertising bill. They are to accurately label. CD Consulting has done a lot of work in that area and exposing who the bad actors are. And so that will be help. And so they can report them, or a consumer can report them to the health department, and they will face a fine. And just the exposure of that you advertise Gulf Coast shrimp and you're not selling that. But what we really want is we want labeling on the restaurant menu, labeling whether or not that it's imported or domestic. When we had, particular language that we all agreed upon it that, would be mutually agreeable upon the whole coastline, not just Texas, but Louisiana, and all of us are in the same boat, really. So that's one great thing about you guys is we are a community, and we are one for all, and we want to help each other. It's not just about Texas Gulf Coast, it's about the entire Gulf coastline and the entire shrimping industry. So it's one little piece that will help, but we will go back and try to get accurate menu labeling next session, and make them put on there if it's imported shrimp. So that's one thing that we did not get that we need to go back for. One of the other things that we might want to think about going into the future is kind of similar to what the oyster industry does. Is the oyster industry, of course, they're testing for, okay, help me out, Ag. Yes, yes. So but $1 off of every bag goes into that fund that pays for the testing of the oysters to make sure that they're safe to eat. But we might want to consider as an industry doing something like that kind of program and that bill would be easier because it wouldn't have a big fiscal note from the state. But we might want to consider like 50 cents or some kind of pooling of our funds to where we can do regular testing for authenticity. And so that might be something that we consider as an industry moving forward. And then that would help the labeling bill accomplish that purpose, is we would have a routine way of finding out if you're really actually labeling it accurately or not. And then we have the fine in place from this bill. So we didn't get everything. We will go back again next session. But I want to tell you that it was your stories that impacted me. It was your stories that impacted legislators when they sat down. Most had no idea what was happening. And me neither. I mean, even before I moved to Galveston, I lived in Houston. I wasn't paying any attention to what was happening at the port or with the shrimp and fish industries. I wasn't at all. And so we have to make the rest of the state understand the fiscal impact of what devastating not just the shrimp industry would be doing, but the fish and the fish and the oyster harvesters and all of us on the coast, and just how much income and revenue our ports bring to the rest of the state. So that's part of my job to do, but it couldn't have been done without the personal stories of the difficulties that you guys are facing. So thank you for telling your story. Thank you for allowing me to be your voice. It was an honor and a privilege, and we'll go back and get the rest of it next session. So thank you very much for having me.
Okay, Nathan Pittman, you're up.
Okay, one second. I want to let y'all know something. Without what she done and what she's talking about, and that whole group up there and what they've gone through and what they've pushed, y'all have no idea what they go through. Hours and hours in these sessions, and that place up there has got people running around everywhere. It's unbelievable. And so what she and the rest of these representatives have done for us, and they're talking about, maybe adding 50 cents a pound to it. Let me tell y'all what, if it wasn't for this right here, we'd still be at 50 and 80 cents on $1 a pound. Y'all have no idea. We do. We've been there and we've seen it. And when they start mentioning it, and she keeps mentioning agriculture, okay? Agriculture, farming, that's what we are. We're in the agriculture group. We're everything together. Our farmers need to be represented just like I always say this. They're in the same boat that we're in. And when we was up at different places, I'm not going to mention any names, but they said, we felt sorry for y'all because we didn't realize that y'all were getting hit worse than what we were getting. And these are people that are farming. And I said, well, I don't know if we're getting hit as bad. I said, well, according to what I hear, it is. So just to let you know that everybody's working together and it's all in one piece. But a big, big thank you for everything and all that you have done. And all of y'all, we appreciate it. Okay.
Also, we have some other political, if y'all stand up, please, introduce yourself.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you all. And then online, Miss Maria from the Texas Strippers Association. I was gonna let her pop on for a second and say hi because she's wanting to say her support for everybody as well.
All right, hello everybody. We have a small group of shrimpers here, about 10 or so, who appreciate the opportunity to participate in your meeting, albeit virtual. We stand with you shrimpers up there because we're facing the same issues down here, and we look forward to finding many reasonable solutions to the many challenges our industry are facing. And I appreciate the solidarity. I've had the opportunity to work with many of y'all up there, Tricia and Kyle and Father Oubre. We appreciate all the work that you're doing, and we stand here in solidarity to support your efforts as we move forward. So thank you again for allowing us to be part of this.
Thank you.
And Nathan. Nathan.
Nathan. Okay. Nathan. We had some people drop what you said.
Man, I really like working with Tricia. Y'all are lucky to have her. Good to see everybody again. Thanks for the invite to come. And I'm Nathan Putman with LGL Ecological Research Associates, here to chat very briefly with you about the effort monitoring programs that we are running. And first of all, how many folks have a federal shrimping permit? Okay, yep, moratorium, yep. And how many don't have a federal but fish just in state waters? How many of ours just state shrimpers? Okay, so we have, we're here to talk about two programs, one for the federal fleet and then one for the state fleet. And so if you have friends in the federal fleet or if you have friends in the state fleet, can share this information. We've got a table in the back. There's two others here. Bobby Wynn is going to pop right in the doorway. He's been working with us. He's working with us out of Louisiana. This is a Gulf-wide effort for both the state permitted fleets as well as the federal permitted fleets. And just to give you a sort of a brief update on, and I guess I didn't introduce Pete. Sorry, Pete in the red shirt. He's also here. And one for introducing ourselves, and then also depending on timing and people's availability, I think we might have a couple of vessels that we can equip this afternoon or maybe tomorrow morning while we're here. So we've got a table there with some details about specific devices and ways to the effort monitoring is going. And we've talked about this before, but the primary update is that for the federal fleet, the Gulf Council has voted on a sort of a final action on the plans to modernize effort collection data, effort data collection for the federal fleet. And what there were sort of two options in front of the council. One was to have effort monitored through the VMS program, NOAA's Office of Law Enforcement, which is the standard way that most other fishing fleets have their effort monitored. And the other alternative was to have a separate system for specific to shrimp that would be run through NOAA's Southeast Fisheries Science Center. And after getting some feedback from the industry, the council opted for the alternative that does not go through the Office of Law Enforcement. And so what that means is that rather than having a standard path to go through, they're sort of creating a separate path for effort monitoring for the shrimp fishery. And 2 points are worth noting here is that these the effort data that is being collected is necessarily, usable by the Office of Law Enforcement, right? So if they want data, they can have it, right? That's just how things work. But it will not go through their office initially. It won't be sort of necessarily directly monitored by them before being sent to the Science Center for the effort calculations, because it's not that sort of program. But so that's positive from an industry standpoint. The slight negative thing is because it's its own program, there is not a reimbursement system in place like the Office of Law Enforcement has. And so what that means is that if left completely alone, people would have to buy their own devices for this effort monitoring. Fortunately, so taking a step back, fortunately, there's this program that we are running, the Early Adopter Program, which is allowing you to volunteer to sign up. We have congressional funds, congressionally appointed funds to NOAA, again, thanks to some lobbying from the shrimp industry, to to fund people to get these devices, to have the cellular fees be paid for the 2 years of the program. And so and free installations as well. So that's our job. So we have 3 different devices out in the lobby that you can look at. You can choose what's appropriate for your boat, whether it's DC based or an AC unit, that kind of thing. And we can work with you, set up a time to do installations. We'll handle that for free. We'll handle the device for free and be able to get that to you really over the next probably 2 years is sort of the timeline we're looking at for this program. And happy to take questions. Probably best, well, I guess if it's general questions, that whatever you guys think. But we'll be in the corner, happy to talk and share more information as you would like.
So if you're signing up for the early adopter program, you get a free device. They install it for free. You get 2 years of cell service for free. It's required to ping 6 times per minute to let them know exactly where you are. And if you're not close enough to shore for it to pick up, when you get into shore, it'll download the data to them. Okay, so now is the time to get it before you're forced to get it and pay for it yourself. Now would be the time to get it. And they can do state waters and also federal waters.
What this basically is the trackers to let them know where y'all are at, okay, where y'all been. It doesn't specify anything, it's just there, it's data they're collecting. But years ago, they were claiming we were fishing on reefs and in all these places where all these fish were. And I mean, the industry was in a spot right on the raggedy edge of where they was fixing to start closing down the Gulf. People don't know this was a real thing. They was going to start closing areas of the Gulf down because we were fishing where all the fish was. Then they turned around and with these devices that they put on the boat, they found out that we wasn't fishing here, we was fishing over here. Wasn't anywhere even close to where they were saying we were fishing. So with these monitors being able to tell you where you were fishing, actual fishing, and in different areas, it's general. We all have GPSs. We all know where we've been. Everybody knows where everybody fishes. This is not a secret, but I recommend y'all to put these on your boat. If y'all don't have, y'all need to get with him, put them on there. I've got one on mine, and a bunch of friends have already put them on. You need to get them on the boat. It's going to cost you. It's eventually going to get pushed into where y'all going to have it. And then they was talking about one of them going with satellite and $4,000 and $5,000 putting on the boat. Well, we got this lowered down to where I think they were $700, $800 or something, and then they're doing them free to start with.
Look at the final cost.
The final cost. Yeah, exactly.
Don't just look at that. This one because it's a really, really expensive one. It's not the best in the long run as far as the price goes.
The less expensive one, you don't have to pay a couple $100 a year, but it's an
after the 2 years, right? And it's not like, and so Kyle asked, when will this be finalized? When will it be implemented? We don't know, and NOAA doesn't know because things are moving slowly and even more slowly now. We'll obviously be doing things like encouraging Congress to keep paying cell phone fees indefinitely, but we can't promise that. So the other thing to think about also with these data is when you have people who are going to talk to state representatives and things like that, a lot of people want to use the ocean, right? And so whether it's putting in infrastructure or putting in wind farms, where's the cable going to run from? Where are you going to put an aquaculture thing? If you have a map that says these areas are important to me because this is where I fish, you can hand that to someone and say, why don't we put that artificial reef area or whatever, useful things somewhere else, not where we're using it. You can't just say don't use the Gulf because people need the Gulf, but you can say these areas are important to our fishery in these, whether it's in state waters or in federal waters. So could be useful.
What he's talking about is several of them. Oh, I'm sorry. What he's talking about is several of them in Louisiana. They were going to put fish farms out there, fences and whatever else they got, just block areas off. Texas doesn't have that data that they have in Louisiana. Louisiana's blanketed with shrimp boats everywhere where they've got coverage. They come to Louisiana and says this air is not even hardly being used over here. So we're fixing to get a bunch of stuff pushed into Texas, and it's in our fishing grounds because I've seen it. Okay, and this is coming. If we don't get this monitoring started and get it on file where we're working and where we're fishing, they can do anything they want, because all they do up there on the committee, and like he said, as of right now, we don't know, but that way that I've listened to the committee, they can vote tomorrow and turn around, not really tomorrow, but anyhow, during their little session and say, well, we want these on the boat today, this next session or whatever. And this one says, okay, this one says, okay, and it's forced on us. It's not like you hardly have anything to say about it, very little. It's kind of disappointing when you speak and there's nothing that anybody can do or say that actually listens and they hear you. And they're going to do what they're going to do, and that's it. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Ms. Laura.
I just want to put a reminder. Hey, this is the replacement program for the ELPs that you guys have had for years. 2007 left in the law that you have black boxes. So this is the replacement for everyone that has to stay. So it's only be already been required is the number of fish devices is a big. But so the opportunity to get this now, to be able to get these devices for free, but I also want to make it fun. If you've got a black box who are still getting mailers asking you for the tips, you still have to send them in. Even if you have a new device, if you have a new device, you don't need to send them the device. It's back in. That's it. What that means is still current. And again, which means the shrimp industry is more than please be sure to send something for your deal. And these new devices, as Chris mentioned, are fixing every 6 minutes, and all the same requirements as we're going. So this is going to be pretty hard for many years. Just to kind of it is clean. It's just that it's always implemented. 3G is no longer.
Yep.
It's not around anymore. So it'll be some. We're still changing. Just want to make sure everyone's aware that needed. Even if you get into.
Y'all understand what he's talking about, what we're talking about here on these ELVs and tractors, basically? Any questions on any of
The
it?
VMS.
Yeah.
No, ELBs.
It's an ELB, CELB, yeah.
Changing the name.
Yep.
And this
All right.
is part of the Magnuson-Stevens Act. This is required for every country that fishes in the ocean waters to keep track of where people are fishing. We also had Mr. Matt Murphy walk in from Bruce's office.
Thank you.
Who's that, David?
Yes.
David?
Hey.
Yeah. Come on now.
Cool.
Come on. I got a big one right there.
You want a bigger camera?
You have a big enough hammer, thank you very much. Okay, can everybody hear me? Yes, all right. My name's Dave Williams, and that is a fully portable, robust genetic testing system called the Right Test. And if you notice, that's mine, and I dropped it from quite a height, and I'm not scared of it breaking. So this test will identify in about 2 hours whether or not somebody is serving Gulf shrimp or an imported farm-raised shrimp. And we have been going around all the shrimp producing states and testing restaurants and basically creating somewhat of a shitstorm. And the shitstorm has helped you guys because the shitstorm has made it so that people have to compete with your product because there's a shortage of shrimp in the market. So makes a big difference. Now, I love legislation. Have no idea how you do it. This lady's wonderful. She tried explaining to me, and it's just like when your wife is trying to give you chores, you just glaze over. But she managed to get legislation passed. The unfortunate thing is that we have legislation, but we have no radar gun. This is a radar gun. This is super important to you guys. Now, we have gone through every single shrimp producing state, from North Carolina all the way through to Texas, and we have gone into a market and we have sampled a random set of 44 seafood restaurants and started looking at authenticity. Okay? Authenticity, there's two types of authenticity. There is explicit, and that is like when you lie that you've been at a pub or a bar to your wife and you bull-faced lie. So in the restaurant situation, what we're talking about is explicit. Inauthenticity is when somebody says, hey, we're serving Gulf shrimp, and they say it either in person or on the menu, and that is an outside bull-faced lie, okay? And then there is also a thing called inexplicit authenticity, and that is when somebody has a restaurant in the shape of a boat, or it's overlooking a harbor, and when you order a plate of food and you have pictures of fishing boats on the wall, it's a natural assumption human beings trust that they're going to be eating an authentic product. Now, I can tell you that we have finished all the states, and when you summarize the whole situation, for every restaurant that is serving genuine Gulf shrimp and saying they're serving Gulf shrimp, the same percentage of restaurants are actually being explicitly inauthentic, which means they are saying on their menu, or they are saying to the person who's asking the question that they are serving wild-caught American shrimp. Now that is disgusting. Now I don't have any problems with imported farm-raised shrimp. It's just that if you say that you are being served Gulf shrimp, that is what you should be being served. Now let's have a look at the good ones and the bad ones, okay? Florida wins, hands down. They are the most inauthentic place. Well, I guess they're Orlando, summary, good thing. We went into Tampa St. Pete and we tested 44 restaurants. Of those 44, 42 of them were serving imported shrimp, and half of those were claiming it was Gulf shrimp. Now, you think about that. First of all, if you live in Tampa, you're enjoying imported farm-raised shrimp, okay? But there are so many people who come down to Florida, come down to Texas, come down to Louisiana on vacation. One of the first things they say is, hey, we came down here to eat some really good, fresh seafood. And that is complete BS. Now, Louisiana actually has laws in place, and their authenticity rate is a lot better than anywhere else. New Orleans, even though I do not like the city, and I'll get in trouble for saying that again, New Orleans actually is the most authentic place on the Gulf Coast. And that is about 87% of the restaurants were being authentic and telling the truth. Now, that's a really good thing. As you get further away from the coast, it goes up to about 40% being authentic, 60% not. And then when you're on I-10, it's about 33%. Now, nobody has that data unless we do stuff, but it shows that people actually really care. Now, you have a situation like that. What we do is we actually also analyze the price of all the different dishes served. And when in Louisiana, if you're serving imported shrimp, you have to put imported on the line item of the menu. And guess what? Once you start doing that, people like us can start analyzing the price points. It's really, really interesting because the average price of a plate of Gulf shrimp was $14, okay? The average price of a plate of imported shrimp that were described as Gulf shrimp was about $14. But if you put imported shrimp on the line item, that $14 drops down to $10. So you can actually see every time they decide to deceive a diner, they're making $4 on that. And that's in addition to the reduced price of the product that's coming in. So now you can actually see what effect people have when they lie to you about the products. Now we've only just been into one market in Texas, and that was Galveston and Kemah. And the inauthenticity rate was about 60%. Now that is terrible. Now, it's not as bad as South Carolina, and it's a lot worse than anywhere in Louisiana.
But it's on y'all's back.
Biz, that money is burning you, okay? Now, because we have stirred an immense amount of publicity, let's put it that way. I was going to use the S word, but I've only used it once and I won't use it again. We have created a lot of publicity on behalf of your organizations, and I really thank the Southern Shrimp Alliance, great organization. I know shrimp associations don't like each other because they're like kids. The Governor's Shrimp Task Force in Louisiana, who've been funding us to do this. But really what we want is we want people who are in the health department or whoever have the authority to enforce to be utilizing this test. Now, this test is rugged, it's extremely accurate, and it's very fast, and it's very inexpensive. So all you guys out here, I know that government people like big shiny machines that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. The hardware for this is $3,000. If you get trained on it, it's $22 a test. It takes 2 hours to actually get a result. And the result is incredibly accurate. If you get a yes, it's a yes. If you get a no, it's a no. And we identify for species. So I know that everybody likes spending vast amounts of money on enforcement. You put 20 or 30 of these tests in the hands of a health department or health organization, people know that you have a radar detector and they're going to start being more authentic. But one of the things that has to happen is restaurants need to be held accountable for what they're selling. And as long as you don't have the information on the line item of the menu, they can continue lying as long as they want. So that's the next thing to go into place. But we need you guys to survive because the coastal community is incredibly important. So, but whatever, anybody has any questions, anybody wants to see the cool toys, I'll show you afterwards, but it's not that interesting. We are going to release a comprehensive report state by state, and you will find that places that have legislation in place are more authentic than places that don't. Places that have legislation in place but are not being enforced are slightly more authentic, but not really. And if you have no legislation in place, it's the frigging Wild West. So that's really what I have to say. I have a whole bunch of data points that people can look and read about. When we have the full report, we'll give it out to all legislators. We need to get hold of, like you guys. I have no idea who to contact in the FTC now because they've been shook up and moved around and everything. But this is information that the FTC needs. Now, we're not messing around here because we have about 500 restaurants tested, and we have done it in an extremely unbiased scientific way. So we have proof of a problem that needs fixing, and if it doesn't get fixed, there'll be less and less of you fuckers out here. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. All right. And by the way, I love the fact that everybody is frigging out fishing right now. Because last year that wasn't the case, right? So,
Things that I was hoping that 70% of shrimp that are out here that are consumed in restaurants.
yeah, that's right.
If we could have a 35
Yeah, if basically, even if we didn't get a price increase, if we just got the authenticity rate cut in half at restaurant level, it would give you about another $1 billion to your economy, which is big frigging information. And that's not just, and also your price is going to go up. You can see, even though people don't like putting the price up to fishermen, you can see that there is a little bit of a fight for your product when you come in now, right? Well, maybe not here, but everywhere else. Yeah.
all work.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Well, I always think it's better to promote the good things that you have. We're only 6 or 8% of the market. 6 or 8% of the market's got to be very, very careful, because if somebody does a hit piece on national media saying shrimp contains antibiotics that will kill you, it will destroy the demand, and you don't want to do that. But everybody talks about antibiotics, everybody talks like that, but I would prefer not to do that, because it's, if you're going to do that, do it quietly and start rejecting containers coming in, because that will reduce the flow of product. Yeah, you don't need, it's just like if somebody says, if you eat an apple, you're going to die, and you're the only person who has apples that aren't going to kill you, you're not going to be able to sell your apples, are you? So it's a great negative advertising is bad. And also, we still need the imported shrimp, because we can't supply all the shrimp we got. I'd love to have a chance to supply all the shrimp we have. And I think we've got an opportunity to do it. We need younger people coming into the industry. We need investment. We need ice plants. We need all of that. And the only way you get that is by actually increasing the price of shrimp. And there is no reason why we can't have more than double the price that you're getting right now. No reason whatsoever. If you look at the price of beef, you look at the price of chicken. I was talking to somebody who was at a restaurant association meeting in California, and there was this guy who was like promoting peeled imported shrimp, and he said, you know something? Peeled shrimp meat is actually cheaper than ground beef right now. You need to start selling that. So if you look at, and you know it yourself, you go to any restaurant, well, I've been to too many damn restaurants recently anyway, but you can go to any restaurant and they used to have like one shrimp dish. Now you'll see like 6 or 8 shrimp dishes. The reason for that is they're making frigging money at it. So we need this corrected. We need a full-scale operation of testing, not just writing laws. And we need a strong, vibrant community, because Port Arthur don't look too good right now. Sorry, if you're the mayor or whatever, I apologize, but you need help, girl. Sorry, Miss Maris, I'm not quite sure how, I'm politically incorrect anyway, so. You guys assume I said nice words, okay? All right. Any questions?
And 50% market share. In other words, 50% of the shrimp sold in the US was American shrimp. Now, we're down to 4%.
That's about 6, I think.
96% of the shrimp are being sold in the US is imported. 4% is you guys.
So-
You gotta do something about it.
And, it's just get the restaurants to tell the truth, and everything will be fine. So anyway, I appreciate the time. Like I say, if anybody's got any questions, we have a fact sheet that actually shows the authenticity levels as a whole on the Gulf Coast. And that might be very interesting reading for everybody, because then you can win most arguments in bars and churches. Did you know? Yeah, sorry. Any questions? No questions? I'll get out of your way. Thank you very much.
Data and efforts have gone a long way toward getting shrimping and the problems with shrimping into the forefront, into the national media, which is important. We have to have people know what's going on in the shrimping industry. So it is very important that he continues his work because it supports us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Share my screen.
Okay, I think it's Coast Guard. So Miss Kimberly from our U.S. Coast Guard. I'm trying to figure out how to share the screen, and I'm sorry if I got your title wrong. I'm not sure how to share your PowerPoint on the screen for the others. Hold on, where did the go-to meeting go? See the go, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Share.
And then go to window.
You're so smart. Okay, that. Okay. Can they see it up there too? Okay,
Yep.
I think we're good.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm going to lower this microphone. I'm not nearly as tall as the last speaker here. I'm Lieutenant Commander Kim Gates. I'm from MSU Port Arthur. I spoke last year, so you probably remember my face. So I'm the Waterways Management and Facilities Inspection Division Chief over there at Port Arthur. And one of the biggest things, and probably the best thing that I get to do, is stakeholder engagement, partnership engagement. I just want to say thank you to Nikki and for everybody who invited me here today. Like I said, I got hopeful that the parking lot was full, but at the same time, I'm really happy that people are out shrimping. That's wonderful. There was a lot more people here last year. So like they said, I'm really, really thankful for that, for you guys. I'm here to talk about hurricane season preps, similar to what I did last year. The biggest two messages, if you don't get anything else out of this PowerPoint, out of this presentation, is be prepared, as I say every year, but the time to prepare is now. And then the second thing is, we are all users of this waterway. We all need to work together. One of the biggest jobs that I have in hurricane season is the recovery of the port. And so once if we go through a hurricane and there's disaster areas all over the place, I help work with the captain of the port to open everything back up. I work with Army Corps and a whole bunch of stakeholders in order to do that. And so you're a part of that, both on the preparedness side. So hopefully we don't have any issues with your vessels through a hurricane. And then also, if you do, to work with me and work with my office in order to help open the port back up. Because if the port is closed down, you guys aren't going out and commerce isn't moving. And that's really what I'm here to facilitate. Okay, so just a little recap from last year. We were really, really fortunate. You can kind of look at the, what the season looked like overall through the whole Atlantic. But, there was 18 named storms. There were 5 that were category 3 or higher, which is pretty high average. It was above average. And then the season lasted pretty long. If you remember, we had Alberto starting in June, and then we had the last one in November. So it was through the whole season. We've been very fortunate. We didn't really see a storm in June, and then we haven't had too much activity. Thank goodness that dust cloud is over us because that keeps it down. But the biggest thing here, and there's a website at the bottom, but the National Hurricane Center, right? The National Hurricane Center tracks all the storms. They give you all the updates. Please make sure you're following them. Also, National Weather Service out of Lake Charles has an amazing Facebook page. I'll make a little plug for that. They do live streams when hurricanes are coming to tell you where they're going to, what the impacts are, kind of time frames for when they're going to hit and everything. So that's really really useful. I use it to help track the storms. So and then obviously we had Helene last year that hit Florida. That was the third costliest storm on record. One of the worst disasters we've had in this country. Thankfully it didn't hit here, but that was a very devastating storm for the U.S. So this year, the predictions are about the same as last year in terms of what named storms we're planning on. They're forecasting to have, the number of hurricanes, the number of major hurricanes, and U.S. impacts. And then you can see all of the storm names. We've already had Andrea and Barry. The next one is Chantel. So that's just the list of names. And obviously, if we get through all the names and they start the Greek alphabet and all of that, hopefully we won't get there this year. I want to go through port conditions. I'm going to hit this really quick because you guys have heard this probably every year in this presentation. But the port conditions are what the Coast Guard uses in order to prepare the full port for the storm, right? So at Whiskey, we send out a marine safety information bulletin to say, hey, we're setting Whiskey right now. The storm is about 72 hours out. So if you see that message come out or you hear the broadcast from VTS that we are in Whiskey, it means that we are in a preparation phase. It means that you should think about enacting your hurricane plan. That if you're going to move, then you need to make preparations to move. At X-ray, you should be thinking, hey, I need to leave if I'm going to leave, or I need to have my measures in place. As we saw with Beryl last year, right? Beryl was like, oh, it's heading towards Corpus Christi. It's heading towards Port Aransas. Oh my goodness, it's going to hit Houston. So it went really quickly. Had this crazy spiral, and the impacts to Houston, for the fact that it was a Category 1 storm, were immense. The flooding that they had, everything, they were not as well prepared as they could have been. But part of that was that storm moved quick, and that's what we're seeing right now with hurricanes. That 72 hours out, we don't always have that right now. Houston didn't have that last year. The vessels that were moving flooded into our zone. I don't know if you were out in the water back then. There was a lot of barges around the channel, all over the ICW. We became Houston safe haven during that storm. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. 72 hours, we don't always have that. We don't always set Whiskey. Sometimes we jump right into X-ray. So it just be, during hurricane season, be monitoring that weather because it can change in a heartbeat. So, and then X-ray is at 48 hours. We're working with the facilities to start terminating cargo ops and everything, and we're working towards Yankee and Zulu, which means closing the port, right? So Yankee is 24 hours out, Zulu is 12 hours out. When at that point, no cargo ops are happening. We're in, let's ride this out. And then in recovery, right? The recovery mode is, hey, the port's not open yet. We're assessing damages. What happens after a storm is that I'm working with all the port partners that I can, the pilots, Jeffco, the Marine Division there, as well as, our AIDS navigation team. And then MSU Port Arthur has a bunch of port assessment teams, and we are all going out on shore, on water, to assess what damage there is in the port. Those port assessments, depending on the level of damage, can take quite a bit of time. We're doing flyovers. We're working with the Army Corps to get surveys done of the bottom. How you can help us with that is if you know that you left your boat somewhere and you're like, hey, it's not here anymore. Heaven forbid, call us. So that way we know. We can hopefully go find it. So just putting it out there. If the worst happens, call us. Because it really helps us to get that picture of what damage there is in the port. If you are at a dock and you're like, oh, my boat is here, but half this dock is gone, call us, because it's probably in the channel. And then obviously it takes time to access some of those areas, as you know, with flooding and everything as the waters recede. So just be patient with us. If you have any questions, I think I forgot to put my number in this PowerPoint, but you can always call me. You can always email me. My email's in here. So, but ask questions. You guys are important stakeholders on this waterway. So you have the right to ask those questions. And you can always call Nate. Okay, so marine information, ways we get things out, right? Broadcast notes to mariners, VTS advisories. VTS will constantly push out those messages for whiskey and all the port conditions. And then MSIBs. I'll get into this in the next slide or the following slide. But Homeport used to be the platform, the website that you could go to, and it was publicly available to see what port condition we were in. Homeport was decommissioned in April. And so I'll get into that in a minute. This is what the MSIB looks like that you would see. It tells you exactly what the restrictions are that are in effect from the captain of the port. And it goes into both the Sabine Neches waterway and the Calcasieu waterway in Lake Charles. So just for everybody's awareness, we do often have very different restrictions between the two waterways. So if you're looking to go over to Calcasieu, there may be different restrictions put in place there than here. So just throwing that out there. Okay, so Homeport decommissioned April 14th. One of the things that Homeport had on it was the port statuses and whether the port was open or closed, or had restrictions in it. And so now it is on the NavCen website, which the address is at the bottom there. But if you just Google Navigation Center Coast Guard, Port Arthur, it'll pop up. And so that gives the exact same information. We will update it in real time, just like we did for Homeport. And then it has all of the numbers up there. So you can, the vessel traffic service number isn't on there. I will fix that today. But the vessel traffic service is, as you know, 24/7 watch. So they will have the most up-to-date information, or if you have any questions, you can always call them. And then my phone number will be up there too. You can see the waterways management phone numbers up there, so you can always get a hold of me. Okay, some resources, basic resources. These I would just like to throw out. Obviously, I said the National Hurricane Center, National Weather Service, Lake Charles, the Donald Jones, who puts out that live Facebook broadcast, is actually pretty fun and entertaining to watch. He also answers comments and questions on there live. So definitely tune in for those if a storm is coming. And then obviously, I hit this last year, but ISTC put out this storm preparation course, and there's even like recovery stuff in there with regards to cleaning out your house if it floods, insurance stuff. It's a pretty in-depth course there. Okay, so I said Homeport decommissioned. There's a new website for Homeport, which is similar to Homeport because it has uscg.mil/Homeport instead of cg Homeport whatever.mil. And then we published an MSIB about Homeport and some information. There's some good frequently asked questions on there. So if you used Homeport for anything else, in addition to the port statuses, it will answer those questions. And then my division has a new email. So that way, if I'm out for some reason, or Lieutenant Sean Yanez is out, who's my partner in crime over there in Waterways, he and I both check that Waterways inbox. And so you'll get a response from one of us. Or we're getting also a new petty officer in Waterways, and he'll have access to that as well. Okay. Funny enough, this is not questions for you to ask me, but I have a question for you. When is the time to prepare for a hurricane? Yesterday is the right answer, but now, or at least after the next presentation. Okay, any questions for me though?
Okay, is the recommendation still to go up the Sabine Pass River and to tie off on a big trees?
So
Was anything decided?
no, not yet. And I was going to talk about that. We're still working that. I'm still waiting to get an update from MARAD. So, not a shrimp boat. I have done a Coast Guard cutter through. So no, I have not. No. Mhm. Mhm.
You have to be on the deck. Just on the deck.
Mhm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Mhm. Right. Right. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
If they'll accept.
Yeah, I was say that's the thing, and it depends because they, just similar to what I mentioned with the barges, right? Like every port on the Gulf Coast is congested as it is normal operating, right? You get a hurricane, you get everybody, going over into everybody else's waterway, it gets even more congested. So, and that, I recognize that is an issue. It's not an issue that I can solve today. I will say that, and just like what I said with Beryl, right, that's another issue is the storms, where that it's going to impact and the timing of that. It is hard to plan. It really is. So, we get it. We're trying to, work with MARAD to figure that out on that front. And then, but if anybody else has any other recommendations on that, or if you're like, hey, I have this plan and it works for me and I can share it with people, then great. Let's share it. Let's learn from each other. Me as the Coast Guard, I can't tell you where to go. I would love to. I would love to be like, hey, there's a wonderful spot that everybody can go. I can't. I can't tell you where to go.
You can't tie up at Taylor's Bayou.
Yeah, don't do that,
Because we'll
please.
destroy.
Yes. Yes. Taylor's Bayou actually has a safety zone in place to prevent anybody from tying off up there. So I'm sorry. I wish I could. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Next, Matt from I'm going to talk to you about the Better Bird project. I also have I've got play those too.
Thank you.
We have sign-up sheets out there
Awesome.
for your days in Port Arthur. Specific days? Yep.
Yep.
Is there a specific day? Thursday, Friday?
Well, I'm gonna tell you guys all about it here. Oh, it's in Chrome. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I think I got it up. How's everybody doing today? Good. Good to see you guys. I was here in January and I told you guys about this project, and I'm back to tell you a little bit more and update you. So my name is Matt Kamen. I work for Texas Sea Grant, part of Texas A&M University, and I'm the project manager of the Better Bycatch Reduction Devices for the Gulf Trawl Fishery Project. What this project is, it's a partnership, and I would like to let you guys know that as industry members, you guys are our #1 partner. We can't do any of this stuff without industry cooperation. This is an industry-led project. And I'll tell you all about it. We're also partnered with Texas Sea Grant over in Louisiana, and we're partnered up with NOAA as well, both the Restoration Center, the Southeast Fishery Science Center, and the Gear Research Branch as well. So what are we doing? We're taking funding that was available from the Gulf Deepwater Horizon oil spill, and we're promoting the use of better bycatch reduction devices. Now, in all of your nets, as a shrimp net, you have a BRD, a bycatch reduction device. And now what we're looking for are more efficient BRDs. BRDs, they're going to have you catch less fish and hopefully more shrimp. Okay, BRDs are a source of loss. You guys can lose shrimp through the BRD. That's your bottom line right there. What we've tried to set up in this project is a win-win situation where we can help you guys to innovate and to put new devices on your boats that are going to allow you to catch the same amount of shrimp or more shrimp while eliminating fish. I know that you guys are out there, you're shrimpers, you're not looking for fish, right? And so any fish that you catch is time that has to be spent separating it out on the deck, all right? What we've done is we've gone and we've looked across the Gulf and we've tried to find new devices that you guys are already using. And we're testing these devices, we're comparing them with the industry standard, and when we found a good one, we're going to try to get it certified so that you guys can use that as your new device. We aren't removing any options from the toolbox, okay? We're going to be able to use all the same BRD devices that you guys were originally able to use. We're just trying to give you options that may work better for you in your areas, all right? Excellent. So in the project timeline, the first thing that we did was what we call the BRD hunt. And in 2022, we surveyed the Gulf from Texas all the way to Florida. And we went out and we looked to see what you guys are using currently. All of these innovations, all of these suggestions came from Gulf shrimpers. They didn't come from a laboratory somewhere with a scientist or an engineer who never has been on a shrimp boat before. This came actually from your boats and what you guys were using. All right. Once we got a good amount of candidate BRDs, we started testing. So we've completed a pilot test and we're currently in the phase of comparative testing. What we want to do is to have a researcher come out on your boat, and that researcher is going to go ahead and look at the shrimp catch and the fish catch on the experimental net with the new bycatch device and compare it with the industry standard. When we have hard data and we can support that this device does work better, that's when we're going to try to get it certified and put it into your hands legally. All right. Once the device is certified, we're going to have a rollout period and we're going to encourage industry-wide use of these better devices. So 2023 and 2024, we've completed our pilot testing. We had 12 boats across the Gulf. You can see areas where they were testing all the way from Brownsville to Fort Myers in Florida, 360 different tows. And these different devices, I can tell you a little bit more about them, showed Great promise. One of them, though, unfortunately, we eliminated completely. One of them was called the Tom's fisheye, and it worked great in other places like Australia, but it didn't really work at the depths that you guys were using. So we've eliminated it down, and currently we're testing 4 different bycatch reduction devices. We have the Chauvin flapless TED, which I know that a lot of you guys are already using. I can go right out here and see the boats, and you guys have the Chauvin TED, okay? We also have another flapless TED design, the Drury TED, okay, and the triangle cut TED. Some of these devices are already approved as TED devices, turtle excluder device configurations, but these also show great promise in eliminating bycatch, okay? And so what we would like to do is to prove that these are just as effective as the fisheye that's there in your net, so that if you chose to, and once we got these legally certified, you wouldn't have to use the fisheye anymore. We know that the fisheye device loses 10 to 15% of your shrimp, right? And so if you don't have to have another hole in your net and you can use the turtle excluder device setup, then that's your profit right there. That's 10% of your profit coming back to you because it isn't lost through the fisheye. Great. So bird versus bird testing in 2025. We're looking for boats that are interested in testing in federal waters in the Gulf of America. Sorry, this is an old presentation. We're looking for up to 50 federally permitted vessels. We're going to be collecting data on how the BRD performs, what its shrimp retention characteristics are, and the bycatch data as well. I want to introduce you guys to Sam. Sam, this is her second day, and she's going to be one of the researchers, okay, that we have out on the boat. I know that you guys have a lot of experience with NOAA researchers, okay? These are going to be our project researchers. So we've looked for the best of the best, the most experienced people who are really competent and who are able to get out on your boats and work with you to get this data. What we expect is that we'll have improved bycatch reduction over existing standards. We expect that this will lead to a positive environmental impact. If those fish are never brought up onto the deck, their odds of growing up to be big fish can be caught by other people and used are even better. And what we hope is that by working with industry throughout the entire project, the industry will be more willing to accept these new devices that we have. What's next? 2025 testing is about to kick off. We all know that there's an event coming up. Shrimp season is about to open here in Texas. Now, what we'd like to do is at this time, we'd like to encourage you guys that if you want to work with us, we will pay you, okay? We value your time. We value that it's an inconvenience to have another person on your boat and to bring them along. But we're willing to compensate you guys. I think it's up to $500 to $600 per day, okay, to bring a researcher on your boat. And I have my card with me. I have lots of information for you guys. I am more than willing to talk to you guys about what it would take. Your first trip out there, we know this is the time to make a lot of money. The first, season open is your chance to get out and make a lot of profit. What we'd like to do is to talk to you guys before you go out, so that your second trip this summer, you can have a researcher on board your boat. All right. That being said, I also want to extend an offer to you guys. NOAA Gear Team was around last week, and they went through and did free courtesy inspections of your turtle excluder devices and your bycatch reduction devices. Texas Sea Grant is going to be coming around next week as well, and we will do free courtesy inspections. Now, I'll tell you guys, we don't write tickets. There's no downside to this at all. What we'd like to do is to come on your boat, measure the turtle excluder device, measure your birds, and make sure that you're in compliance with all regulations. The last thing that you want is to head out right on your first trip of the season, and you get out there and you get a fine or you get in trouble, okay? So let's head that off at the pass. We are more than willing to do it. From July 7th to the 11th, we're going to be traveling up the entire Texas coast on July 10th, and on July 11th, we're going to be here in Port Arthur. So I'm willing to give you guys my card. I'm willing to please give me a call, make an appointment. We will come to your boat and inspect everything. Also, while I'm here this afternoon, if any of you would like to have your boat inspected, if you want to have us take a look at your TEDs or your birds, I'm more than willing to come out this afternoon or anytime tomorrow as well. So we're here. We would love to help you guys. We'd love to work with you on this stuff. My name's Matt Kamen. My cell phone number is up there. My email is up there as well. We have a website that you can get to either through that QR code or the short link that's right there. If any of this interests you, if you would like to have a researcher on your boat, if you want to get paid to participate in research, talk to me. We really want to work with you guys. I'm going to be and Sabine Pass too. Okay, so yeah, Port Arthur, yes, this whole area. Sure. That's right. Thank you. Yep. So yep, we are looking for boats out in federal waters, and we're looking for 4 rig boats. Thank you. That's a good point. That's about all I have. There's also I believe some flyers that we have for the shark project. I don't have one. Nikki, yeah.
So, flyers around, if you guys, take a few minutes of your time to really walk through it. We're continuing to try to build research support to verify how we're helping you and working with and how we're trying to but there are a few other and it happens for grant funding.
Is that the depredation survey? We got a card, okay. Some of you may have gotten postcards in the mail that had it was a depredation survey, talking about sharks and them eating your catch before you can bring them in.
Thanks a lot, everybody. And if you want an inspection, just let me know. Thanks.
Sign up sheets out there if you'd like to put your information down, and Matt's phone number is available also. Or UTMB.
Hello, everyone. Great to see you again. So I think I've probably seen most of you around the docks. Just as a reminder, I'm Dr. Shannon Guillot-Wright. I'm with University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston. And we've been doing a lot of work with you all and your friends on some of the different health issues that you have and what you would need to work on those.
Dạ, xin chào các anh chị ha, tụi em là với UT Health, UT Health Houston. Tụi em cũng có làm cho chung với các anh chị đó cũng một thời gian khá lâu rồi, cho nên là cũng muốn giúp cho anh chị về sức khỏe rồi này nọ ha, trong cái việc mà làm việc của mình.
So based on those interviews, many of you said that you could use a clinic here at the docks. So we've been having a clinic once a month at the JBS docks, and that will start up again in September. And we also have the clinic here today that's set up in the back, and you can get blood pressure checked, you can get first aid books. We were handing out first aid manuals last year. We have those again that you can pick up in September from the docks.
Dạ thì tụi em có clinic một tháng một lần, sẽ bắt đầu làm lại tiếp bắt đầu tháng 9 này ở GPS Dock, hoặc là ở đây cũng có nữa, thì mấy anh có thể ra khám sức khỏe tổng quát thử đường, thử máu, kiểm tra áp huyết ha. Rồi có những đồ tụi em có mấy cái first aid kit rồi này, nó những cái món này cũng hay lắm để mình đem theo trên tàu rồi này nọ. Thì một hồi mời mấy anh đến để coi ha, để kiểm tra sức khỏe luôn.
And then last, some of you talked about what could be helpful is like having earplugs and learning more about hearing loss. And so we have Dr. Richards, who's going to come up here and talk about that. And then we have earplugs and flyers about that we'll hand out at the end.
Và có bác sĩ ông nói về cái vấn đề mà máy to lớn để làm cho mình bị lãng tai, thì mình phải làm sao để mà mình được giữ, tại vì có nhiều anh than phiền là lỗ tai không có nghe được vì máy móc nó lớn đó, thì bác sĩ sẽ cho mình vài cái tips để mà mình phòng ngừa.
Good morning, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Dr. Luke Richards.
Go ahead, Doctor.
Sounds great. So I've been an internal medicine physician for about 10 years, and I'm doing some extra training in occupational health now, which is how I ended up here in front of you all today.
Thì ông bác sĩ Richard này đó, ông là chuyên khoa về bên mà công việc làm, rồi có những cái mà ảnh hưởng đến sức khỏe rồi nè, đó là ông chuyên về cái khoa đó ha.
So I've been a doctor for quite a while, but I'm new to your occupation. So if I say something that you know is wrong, if I misunderstood something about what you do, please feel free to come up afterward and teach me. I'm here to learn.
Thì bác sĩ nói bác sĩ làm cũng lâu rồi, nhưng mà trong cái ngành mà đi đánh tôm của mình thì ông cũng mới, cho nếu mà ông nói cái gì sai thì mình sửa ổng ha, ông mới về cái ngành này, cái nghề này.
Now, I'm not going to read off of slides to you today. I just have a few photos and graphs and silly pictures to hopefully help you remember some of the things or understand some of the things that I say.
Rồi ông có mấy cái hình đó, ông vừa nói thì ông cho hình mình coi ha. Again, nói là về lỗ tai của mình á, về thính giác.
So I was primarily asked to talk about hearing loss and noise-related hearing damage while I'm here, but I also have some information on confined space risks, and if we have time, risks related to high temperatures as well.
Thì ông nói về cái nghề của mình thì nói là về lỗ tai, thính giác bị ảnh hưởng với công việc của mấy anh, rồi đồng thời là nói là cái chỗ mà mình làm việc, trong cái chỗ mà nó confine, có nghĩa là chật chội, cái chỗ nhỏ tàu mình nó nhỏ, thì nó là có những cái nguy hiểm xảy ra khi mình làm việc trong cái không gian nó nhỏ, thí dụ như nóng cũng là một cái vấn đề nó gây ảnh hưởng đến sức khỏe.
So the hearing issue is actually important enough that I believe we have some handouts that will go around that give you a broad overview of the different issues related to hearing, the different hearing levels, the different sound levels, why we care, how we mitigate the risk, and who you can call if you have concerns, Cecile, to help you get connected with a physician.
Khi nói về thính giác thì không phải là đến mình điếc, mình mới nói là mình không ấy, có nhiều khi mấy anh bị tổn thương đến cái mình nghe những cái tiếng mình nghe được, những cái âm thanh nghe được, và những cái âm thanh mình không có nghe được, chứ không phải đến điếc mới là bị ảnh hưởng. Đó, cho nên là nếu mà họ sẽ nói cho mình biết là những cái dấu hiệu là gì, rồi nếu có cần gì giúp đỡ thì cứ gọi cho tụi em sẽ giúp để đi khám.
Now, forgive me if I start a little too simply, but I wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. Here at the top is a good representation of how we measure sound and what different daily sounds might represent. So we use decibels for sound level, just like you would use degrees for temperature.
Đó thì đó như ông nói đó, mỗi cái mức đó, mỗi cái mức đó nó là nó cái khác nhau. Anh thấy không, anh chị thấy không, thì nó đo thôi, cho nên cái lượng mà mình nghe đó nó có từng âm độ khác nhau.
And if you look, 0 decibels would be complete silence. Something very quiet like your own breathing would be 10. And something very, very loud like a firework exploding that you can hear miles away would be all the way up at the end of the scale, 140 decibels.
Đó như anh chị thấy không? Ví dụ như 0 dB đó là yên lặng. Rồi cái từ tiếng nhỏ hơn là 10, 20 đến lớn thì là lớn rồi nó đen, nó tới bên kia luôn là nó tiếng động rất là lớn, tiếng mạnh, âm thanh lớn.
Now, in my experience, a lot of us think about hearing damage when we're thinking about those very loud noises. But if you actually look at when hearing damage occurs, it's near the middle of this scale, around the loudness of a truck on the highway.
Cho nên hồi nãy như em nói đó, có những cái âm thanh nhỏ là mình đã bị mất rồi, trên những cái tiếng động nó đã làm nha. Cho nên nó nhiều, chứ không phải bệnh đến mình khi không nghe được thì là mình biết tới bên kia rồi. Nhưng mà nhiều khi những cái âm thanh nhỏ mình đã không nghe, vừa vừa mình cũng đã không nghe là mình đã mất cái thính giác, đã mất cái mức độ đó, từ thấp rồi, đã mất rồi.
Now, depending on the vessel, the engine type, and those things, those often run quite high actually at the 100 to 110 decibel range. Plenty loud enough to cause hearing damage.
Cho nên cái máy thường mà máy trên bon tàu của mình là quá lớn rồi, tiếng động đó thì là quá rồi. Ông nói là tuốt đằng kia lận. Cho nên mình mà nghe hoài như vậy đó là, thấy không, tưởng tượng mình sẽ mất cái thính giác đó, quá lớn rồi.
And forgive me, this may be more than you want to know, but I can't talk about something without explaining why it works at least a little bit.
Ông nói vậy thì, nhưng mà ông cũng muốn cắt nghĩa tí xíu chi tiết tại sao có tiếng động đó mà nó làm cho mình bị mất cái thính giác ha, ông cắt nghĩa tí.
So in the bottom left of this slide, you see a microscope picture of the hairs inside your ear behind the eardrum.
Đó, như ông nói đó, anh thấy mấy anh chị thấy cái bên đó không, giống như mấy cái lược đó, hair cell đó, mấy cái tế bào trong cái thính giác của mình đó, đó là mấy cái tế bào nó giống như vậy đó, giống như mấy cái lược vậy đó.
When you hear a sound, the sound makes these hairs move, and that's what tells your brain that there is a sound.
Cho nên khi mà mình cái âm thanh á, khi mà mình nghe nó dội vô thì những cái tế bào mà hair đó nó rung ha, nó rung, nó làm cho não mình biết có tiếng động ha.
However, because these hairs are very small, they're also very fragile. And so the loud sounds, instead of just moving them, will break them.
Đó, cho nên mấy cái này nó mềm lắm, nó như mấy cọng rất là mềm, thì cứ tưởng tượng nếu mà nó lớn quá, nó dội vô như vậy á, nó rụng luôn mấy cái cọng đó. Ha, mình tưởng tượng như nó mềm, nó nhẹ lắm, mà ầm như vậy nó rụng luôn mấy cái tế bào đó.
And once they're broken, they don't grow back. So if you have a little bit of noise damage today, a little bit tomorrow, a little bit next week, and a little bit the week after, that adds up over time.
Đó, cho nên đó mình là bị chút thì nó nhẹ rồi riết nhiều quá, mấy cái rụng từ từ, rụng 1 rồi rụng 2 rồi nhiều quá là rụng mất, mình mới rụng vậy là nó không có mọc lại, là mình không có nghe được, nó rụng rồi là thôi luôn.
So why do we care? First, hearing loss is just a problem for your quality of life, right? Hearing family members, hearing talks like this, hearing the television. Anything that you do in your daily life is often very dependent on your ability to hear properly.
Mà tại sao mình phải để ý thính giác làm gì? Rất là quan trọng. Tại vì mình nghe được thì mình nghe nói, mình nghe cái này cái kia thì cái đời sống của mình nghe nhạc được thì vui hơn là nếu mình không nghe nhạc được, đúng không? Thí dụ như vậy. Cho nên thính giác rất là quan trọng.
Furthermore, there is evidence that hearing loss can be associated with the development of dementia down the road. So it's something we very much want to prevent.
Rồi tiếp thêm nữa, nếu mình không có nghe được mà lâu như vậy một thời gian, nó ảnh hưởng tới não của mình, nó làm cái não của mình bắt đầu không nghe, không hoạt động được nhiều, là bắt đầu quên. Cho nên lãng tai nó dẫn đến mất trí nhớ, nó đi chung với nhau như vậy. Cho nên mình phải để ý là như vậy.
And something else that can develop is tinnitus or ringing in the ears. And that can be loud enough to cause a significant amount of irritation throughout the day, again affecting your quality of life. And even can cause insomnia because it's so loud that it makes it difficult to fall asleep.
Rồi còn tiếp nữa, nó làm cho mình khi mà mình không nghe rõ như là vậy đó, thì nhiều khi nó làm cho lỗ tai mình bị lù bù, là như là ve nó cứ kêu vậy đó. Mà nếu như vậy thì rất là khó chịu, cứ tưởng tượng cả ngày mà bị nghe lúc nào cũng bùng, ngủ không được, sanh ra cái bệnh không ngủ được vì tối lúc nào nó cũng lùng bùng như vậy. Hồi nãy giờ thấy bao nhiêu chuyện rồi ha, mất trí nhớ rồi ngủ không được nữa.
So that's all the bad news. But the good news is that it's relatively easy to reduce or eliminate a lot of the risk of these changes from noise.
Thì mấy cái đó thì bị thì nhìn nghe ghê, nhưng mà mình có thể có cách để mình phòng ngừa, mình chống lại được, mình phòng ngừa lại được ha.
Now, there are resources available from the state government for free testing to see what the noise levels are like in a specific workplace. But I know that can be a hassle, and so I'm going to give you a rule of thumb to work by as well regarding when a sound is loud enough that you should worry about it.
Thì ông nói nó có những cái dụng cụ mà nó có thể lên tàu rồi nó coi cái tiếng động mà lớn nhất á, là cỡ nào, mà nếu mình bị như vậy thì nó sẽ ảnh hưởng làm sao, nhưng mà làm như vậy thì mất công lắm. Thì bác sĩ nói ông sẽ cho mình chung chung cái nội quy chung chung, lúc nào là lúc bị nghe nhiều lớn, âm thanh quá lớn đó, ông sẽ nói cho mình biết.
So the illustration on the right here is one of those silly drawings just showing something called the 3-foot rule. And the idea is that if you are talking with someone and they are an arm's length away, and you feel like you have to raise your voice for them to hear you properly, even if it's only a little, the noise around is probably too loud and you should be wearing hearing protection.
Đã ông nói thí dụ như vậy, hai người nói chuyện với nhau mà 3 feet ha, người ta đứng 3 feet mà mình phải nói lớn lên để cái người bạn của mình mới nghe được. Đó là quá lớn, là có nghĩa là chung quanh á, âm thanh chung quanh nó đã quá lớn, mình phải nói lớn thì cái người kia mới nghe được. Là mình biết lúc đó là hơi nhiều rồi đó, mình phải mang nút bịt lỗ tai.
Now, certainly it makes a difference how long you spend around the noise. You may be able to spend several hours around noise at 80 decibels, just barely loud enough to cause trouble, but you may only be able to spend a few minutes at a noise range similar to what your engines would likely produce.
Với lại á, thí dụ như nếu mà nó lớn tiếng nhưng mà nó không có lớn lắm thì mình có thể mình nghe được 2-3 tiếng đồng hồ thì nó ok, nó chưa có bị tổn thương. Nhưng mà những cái tiếng máy mà nó lớn, nó to quá thì nếu mà mình nghe chỉ 10 phút hoặc là 30 phút thôi là nó đã hại đến cái lỗ tai nghe của mình rồi. Cho nên nó cũng tùy ha, theo cái thời gian nữa.
So what I would recommend is playing it safe. If you're in that range where you're having even a small difficulty communicating with someone nearby, just go ahead and put on hearing protection. And this can be as simple as the small foam earplugs that you just have in your pocket.
Cho nên bây giờ nói tóm lại để cho chắc ăn á, thì vậy đó, nếu mà hai người nói chuyện với nhau mà mình phải la lớn lên thì cái người bạn mình mới nghe, thì lúc đó là xung quanh tiếng động nó nhiều quá rồi, máy nó lớn quá thì thôi cứ bịt lỗ tai lại đi cho nó chắc ăn.
And some people will have the question of which hearing protection is best. Frankly, the one that's going to be the best is the one you will actually use. Okay?
Rồi có nhiều người hỏi thì cái dụng cụ nào tốt để mà bịt lỗ tai, thì ông nói cái dụng cụ mà tốt nhất là cái dụng cụ mình có ngay đó, mình để vô liền là tốt nhất. Cho nên mấy cái bịt đồ, mấy cái cục nhét lỗ tai đó là tốt nhất, tại nó ngay đó ha.
I personally really like the headphone form, but if you're working out in the heat and they get sweaty and irritated, you may be tempted to take them off. So if you have an opportunity to try some of these, get a cheap one, try them, see if they work, see if they're comfortable. If you don't like them, it doesn't work for you, try a different kind. See what works best that you'll use and like.
Cho nên ông nói mấy cái headphone là tốt nhất, nhưng mà đổ mồ hôi nóng rồi đó mà bụp mình làm nó khó chịu quá thì mình dùng thử mấy cái nào khác rồi coi cái nào nó hợp với mình. Còn tốt nhất là cứ mua mấy cái miếng mà bịt lỗ tai bỏ trong túi sẵn rồi cứ xài cái đó cũng được ha.
I've also gotten the question before if whether you can wear earplugs and headphones over. That works and it does help, but it's not as important as just wearing something in the first place.
Rồi có nhiều người hỏi tôi mang cái lỗ bịt đó rồi tôi mang cái headphone nữa được không? Thì được, dĩ nhiên là tốt rồi, nhưng mà tốt nhất là cứ mang cái nào có là cứ mang ha, một cái thì cứ mang một cái là đủ rồi, là tốt.
Now, moving on from the hearing risk, and we'll recap that as well, I want to talk a little bit about confined space on the vessel.
Rồi bây giờ nói tới chuyện mà mình làm trong cái bon tàu nhỏ hẹp ha.
Now, I haven't been on your vessels, but I understand that there are several places, lazarettes, ice holds, various other chambers that are relatively small and would not support good air movement.
Ông nói ông không có biết trên tàu mình sao, nhưng mà ông biết nó có nhiều phòng nhiều trong tàu, mà cái bon tàu nó nhỏ, nó hẹp, cho nên không khí nó không có lưu thông tốt, không có nhiều không khí.
You all work in a very dangerous business, and I think it's easy to forget or not think about some of the things that you deal with, but these confined spaces can actually be quite dangerous, so I just want you to be aware of these issues.
Thì đó, ông nói tại mình không để ý, mình lo mình làm mình không có để ý, nhưng mà những cái chỗ mà nó nhỏ như vậy, nó hẹp, nó bị tù túng như vậy rất là nguy hiểm, mình phải để ý.
Now, there are two big problems related to confined space. Number one is the lack of new air coming into the space. What you can see here on the bottom left is, again, a silly little schematic, but the blue oxygen and the red carbon dioxide that's being breathed out. The carbon dioxide is the waste product, and if you don't get rid of it, you suffocate. But if there's no new air coming in, you're breathing in the oxygen, you're putting out carbon dioxide, and you're getting rid of all the oxygen in that space.
Thì đó, như ông nói trên đây nhìn thấy không, cái lượng oxy với cái lượng CO2 đó thì nó không có đủ, tại nó hẹp quá mà nó tù túng, nó hẹp quá, cho nên mình cứ hít vô oxy, mình thở ra CO2, CO2 mà mình cứ thở ra, mình cứ làm này, mình cứ dùng cái không khí cũ, nó không có không khí mới, nó không có thoáng, nói chung là không có thoáng, cho nên riết rồi từ từ đó nó bị thiếu cái lượng oxy, nó làm cho mình bị nó khó thở, ngợp ấy.
Now, if the oxygen is only a little low, it can still affect your thinking and make you more likely to make mistakes. You could injure yourself with a tool or otherwise make bad decisions in that environment. If the oxygen gets very low, you can actually pass out and it could even kill you.
Cho nên nếu mà lượng oxy mà nó thấp thôi, nó thấp chứ không phải là mình chưa thiếu, nó thấp thì bắt đầu là đầu óc của mình nó không còn minh mẫn, nó không có nhạy nữa. Mình làm việc mình không có nhạy, tay chân mình bắt đầu là không có còn khéo léo nữa vì cái lượng oxy nó thấp. Mà nó thấp đến cái mức thì mình sẽ xỉu luôn, nó không đủ là mình sẽ xỉu bất tỉnh luôn.
And so that low oxygen is one problem. The other problem is any work that you're doing in these confined spaces that deal with fumes or production of vapors or other things, whether it's cleaning with chemicals, painting, grinding, whatever the case may be, those fumes have nowhere to go. It's very difficult for them to get out of the small opening to the space. And so they build up and you breathe in high concentrations.
Và tiếp theo nữa, trong cái bon tàu của mình nó tù túng, nó chật mà, rồi nào là dầu khí hơi rồi nó ra, rồi những cái chất nó sạch nó thải ra lại độc nữa, rồi nó cứ quần ở trong đó, nó cứ nhiêu đó mình cứ hít vô rồi thở ra có nhiêu đó, cho nên nó rất là độc. Nói chung là cái không khí đó nó không có trong sạch, nó không có độc ha.
Depending on what chemical you're using and what the vapors are, when they build up, they can cause symptoms as simple as headaches or lightheadedness. But they could also cause lung damage that could put you in the hospital, and it could again cause you to pass out and even suffocate if there's not enough oxygen because of those vapors.
Cho nên đó, nhiều khi những cái loại mà chemical mà nó dùng, những cái chất khí nó dùng cho nó, mình cũng không biết là loại gì nữa. Cho nên khi mà nó tiết chất ra nó làm cho độc mà khi mình hít vô thì những cái bộ phận trong cơ thể mình, nào là phổi cũng bị hít vô, cũng bị nám, cũng này nọ. Cho nên rất là độc, rồi nó làm cho não của mình, tóm lại là toàn chất độc mà mình hít vô á.
So with that, anything that you can do to improve the aeration, improve the airflow while you're working in these spaces is important. Here in the top picture, you can see that there's a fan hooked to a hose that simply helps push the bad air out and pull in new air.
Đó, cho nên mình là cách nào mà mình cho nó thoáng được là mình nên làm. Thì ông nói ở đây nó có cái fan, cái quạt nó gắn ở chỗ cái gì chỗ đó đó, em không biết chỗ này nè, rồi cho nó thoáng để mình cho không khí nó thoáng vô.
There are other strategies to lower this risk. You can wear a tank of air, kind of like a scuba diver, where you're always breathing clean air. Whatever works for you. But again, I just want you to be aware of the risk. And one other very important thing to know, if somebody passes out in a space like this and you go to get them, you're now exposed to the same thing. You're likely to become a second victim. So you need to talk with someone who has a strategy, who knows how to deal with this, that won't also pass out. They have an air supply. There's some way to get them that you won't also become impacted.
Cho nên nó tóm lại là mấy anh phải cẩn thận ha, làm sao cho không nó được thoáng đó, nói chung là thoáng, làm mọi cách thoáng, hoặc là phải mang những cái tank á, có oxy trong đó để lúc nào mình cũng có đầy đủ chất oxy ha. Còn nếu mà một người bạn của mình mà bị xỉu vì thiếu oxy thì mình nên nhớ nha, mình mà vô trong đó để cứu họ, mình cũng sẽ bị bất tỉnh nữa. Cho nên nếu thấy ai xỉu bất tỉnh trong cái bon tàu hay gì á thì phải đi kiếm người nào mà người ta biết cách để mà người ta có thể giúp, phải mang oxy hay gì hãy vô, chứ còn thôi mấy anh vô đó lại xỉu tiếp nữa ha.
And for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over the heat today, but just want to recap the major points. For the hearing, if you have trouble speaking to someone, if you're having to raise your voice at arm's length, throw in your earplugs. And if you're working in a confined space, be cognizant of whether you're working with something that creates fumes or could otherwise cause a problem with your breathing. Make sure you're trying to improve the airflow and taking frequent breaks.
Đó, thì bữa đây hai chuyện mình để ý mấy anh ha. Tiếng động mà lớn của máy ha thì nhớ mang cái bịch đấy. Rồi cái vụ mà không khí nó ngợp thì nhớ ha, thở oxy rồi thêm, hoặc là phải mở ra cho tàu của mình thoáng hay sao đó bằng mọi giá để được thoáng ha, thoáng mát.
That's a really broad, fast overview. So if you have any questions, if you wanted more detail than what I gave, please come up and ask me after we're done. I'm happy to chat more.
Dạ, nếu mấy anh có còn thắc mắc gì mỗi tháng gặp tụi em nha. Trong đó đó, đi kiếm ha.
Really great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Heisler, and I'm here today from Anahuac, so just down the road, and I'm representing my multi-generational commercial fishing family. We're no longer in the shrimp fishery. We now are in reef fishery, so our main harvest is American red snapper, but I'm so happy to be here with all of you today, standing in solidarity and support, and hearing all the things that have been said here today. It reminded me of a poem written by a pastor in Germany that says, "First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a communist." And he goes down the list until finally they get to him. So I just want to reiterate that in the commercial fishery, we are together. We need to stand together. We need to support one another. I do sit on the board of the Gulf of America Reef Fish Shareholders Alliance. And so many of you I've had interactions with at Gulf Council meetings or at future fishermen trainings. And so I'm just happy to be here with you and support you and continue working with you, because we are regulated under that same Magnuson-Stevenson Act, and also the Gulf Council that does all of our regulations filter through. So just great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Okay. Everybody hear me? Okay. I'm Rolando Maidon. I'm one of the Sabine pilots. This is my second time talking to you guys. This is always kind of a fun one. It's cool. Normally when I see you guys, I'm on a ship and y'all are on boats. So it's kind of cool to put some faces. Big thing that we want to reiterate is we're here for safety, guys. We got to move the ships. You guys got to do what you got to do. And everyone shares the waterway, and we try and share it as much as we can. Sometimes we got to be where y'all are, and that's just the nature of being on a big ship. And so the biggest thing is just communication. They just did this really nice presentation on hearing. And like I grew up working construction. My dad's a construction worker his entire life. And so our joke is we spent the first 18 years of my life with him yelling at me. And now we've spent the past few years with me yelling at him, because it was just so much saws and air guns and everything. So hearing's super important. It's also really important for hearing that radio. We're always available. We're on the ships. We're on 13. If you guys need anything, if you're disabled, you need help, you can give us a shout. We can try and pass a message. Obviously, VTS is always there to assist you as well. And because I've had, we've all got to do what we got to do to keep our vessels safe, and that includes y'all. We try and always think of it as you guys are people on your boats trying to do your jobs, a very important job. I just read a report not too long ago that more people are noticing that some restaurants aren't serving Gulf shrimp when they say they do. And that's important. People are looking for those messages that they are helping a local economy and there's local people. And it doesn't get more local than us running the ships in and out of here and you guys going out to do your thing. So thanks for what y'all do. We really appreciate it. Try and keep an eye out for you. If you see us first, don't hesitate to give us a shout. We're usually trying to call you guys on 13. If we don't do that, then we call you on 16. Then we'll go to the whistle. And we can always work it out. Port, starboard, ones and twos, reds and greens. Main thing is communication. We're here for you. You're here for us. Let's just try and help each other out. Like she just said, it's all about, like, we're not fishermen. Lady here is part of a fishing family, but we all share the waterway. So that's really much all I got. If anybody has any questions for me or anything, good. All right. I brought some hats and pens and koozies. There's some out there, some in this bag. Thank you.
so you can click the link when you're ready.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Joseph Toblin from Mustang Caterpillar. I'm based in Houston. I've talked to y'all about 2 years ago about this legacy program about your engines because what ultimately happened and the reason why it kind of dragged out is because Caterpillar has got so many new engines for this AI and all of these data centers is that they didn't really know what they were going to do. And so what ultimately has happened is I have Tim here from Caterpillar Reman. And what we realistically needs to know is we need to try to get the serial numbers of your engines so that we can come up with a plan of being able to remanufacture your engines with, factory Caterpillar parts. And you will also have a Caterpillar warranty, just like you bought a brand new engine. And so I'm going to go ahead and let Tim talk because he's over the remanufacturing for marine for Caterpillar. And so he's going to go ahead and talk about what we need to go ahead and do, because the only way we can get this particular issue off there is we need to look at how the engines were configured, and then how, as us, can help you guys to take your engines and bring you guys, because we all know that these engines are kind of, these engines are probably 30 years old. And so, and we also know that you guys want to still have a mechanical engine, but we want for you guys to have a product that we can actually go into the future with, because electronics and salt water don't really work too good. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over now to Tim, and he's going to go ahead and let you guys explain to you. We got two little samples of what you'll see on a remanufactured engine from Caterpillar. We're looking at a long block and a short block, because we can't really, from the US EPA standpoint, we can't supply you guys a complete new engine because of the emission requirements. And so that's the reason why we're looking at trying to help you, but also need, again, the only way we can get this is you guys need to send us the serial numbers, because we have to look at what is out there and what is already in the Caterpillar system that can make all this work. Okay? So go ahead.
Thanks, Joe. So my name's Tim Eyrick. I work for Caterpillar Corporate here in Houston, but more specifically for the CAT remanufacturing division. And I do have 100% responsibility for developing reman MPI or reman offerings in support of marine specifically. So that's why we're here today, supporting our local dealer here, Mustang CAT. The CAT reman value prop is predicated on two main foundations, which is like new performance. So legally we can't say new performance because that's on the new side, but we have like new performance, meaning when we remanufacture our product, we are using the exact same drawings, the exact same specifications, the exact same quality testing as on the new side. And that's why the second pillar is we offer the exact same parts warranty as new. One thing you'll notice is that we do not have separate warranty statements, one for the new parts and one for the reman parts. We have one warranty statement that covers Caterpillar as a whole. which is meant to demonstrate our confidence in the quality of cat remand. So, for that, we do have 2 short videos that we can show that kind of walk through the cat remand process and shows how the cat remanufacturing process differentiates from a simple rebuild that you might be used to. You just use that one. So just to summarize, this is something that we can offer, of course, on the marine side as well. We do have a existing portfolio of remand coverage of components that can offer you a cost-effective solution. But like Joe was mentioning, it would be helpful if we could get a list of the actual engine serial numbers. And that way we can proactively identify not only where we have current coverage today, but also look at our coverage gaps based off of your needs in the field. So any questions?
Yeah, business coordinator. And so that way we get information to reach out to you.
Yeah, so we have
Yeah, we're working this together, and so the plan is, if I can give you my card, and again, we're trying to get the database, and we're sending the database of the engine serial numbers, so it can go in and see kind of that what is there, so that we can honestly see, okay, we've got long block, short block and stuff. Because right now, we're basically kind of talking about this stuff in generalities, but we don't know what engines, what, according to the serial number, what is out there that we could remanufacture. That's kind of what we need to start with, is the serial number. Then we're gonna put this over to him, and then they're gonna come back, and then we want to do this here, not only in Port Arthur, but down in, all the other shippers that have Caterpillar engines, because a lot of these, mechanical engines, we know, I'm doing the whole turf funding and this and that. Yeah, it's a good idea, but when you're out, 100 miles out and you have a sensor or something that goes bad, that's not really working. And so that's why we're here together, because I think it's some aspects, Turk wants you to repower everything as tier 4 and replacement engine. But the problem is that you don't have the electronic, know-how and the tools and stuff, if you're 100 miles out, it's not going to work. So that's why I've been, as you guys know, I've been coming out here over a 2.5 years and try to get this thing off the ground with Caterpillar. And since Tim is over all of the marine for Caterpillar, that's why he's here, so we could get this off the ground and start helping you guys. Because now I'm hoping after this tariff, is that you actually have, some type of money that you can start actually, doing stuff. Right now, the price of the shrimp was so low, you don't have any money in. So that's kind of, I wish it was earlier, but I can't help that because of all of the data centers stuff. But now we have a choice, of opportunity that we can actually start looking at this thing and telling you, okay, we've got a long block or a short block or whatever, and we're trying to make this thing is us around this industry.
Are you planning to eventually phase out the old engine? Is that where you're going?
No, we're trying not to do that because I don't think really good thing like is I don't think that and the reason is because the cost right now to go in there and do it. If you go from your a tier 0 engine to a tier 4 engine with everything under 750 horsepower, it's tier 3. But above 750 horsepower, it's tier 4. That engine price doubles. And so if you were paying $100,000 for an engine, it's $200 now because the emission is $100.
I think for now, both of them, not all. Just regarding the motor.
Yeah, and
Right.
but see, that's what we're trying to help on the side because we know these engines are they're 30, you can only cut that deck so many times. It's only, and that kind of stuff. Well, the process that Caterpillar has, they can go in there with it and basically the original drawings of the original block is, it's 0, not 10,000 or 20,000. That kind of.
Right. So we do have obviously new engines that are available for new vessels and for repowers, but we're also committed to supporting our current field population with cost-effective solutions. So that's why we're here, and we want to make sure that we have the right solutions available because over the course of production of engines, ratings change, horsepower density changes, things like that. So there isn't necessarily always going to be a one-size-fits-all solution that works for everybody. Having that list of serial numbers will help us understand where those population concentrations are. Are they 3406s, 3408s, 3412s? What are you most interested in seeing additional solutions from Caterpillar?
But I can tell you, as a keeper of the database, if you guys draft a letter, draft the information, then look, we can send them out to members of the organization before with the return envelope to
Oh, okay.
At best possible. I think you're gonna get more than frustrated trying to get people to act. You may get some who will actually affect that, especially then by, we're gonna put that word out. And again, what we gonna do, because other stuff is still bringing out in the FDs, in Spanish, the issue was not here. We'll do that. I've been out a couple of weeks, and so I went. So, anyway, we've been doing it. I haven't visited, been in Houston for 3 weeks, and that's why we did. But that would be excellent if we.
Yep. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Can I do mine real quick? We haven't had an opportunity yet. Okay, first of all, today is kind of a celebration for shrimpers because the passage of Senate Bill 823 and also HCR 76. We want to thank our legislators and their staffers, who are also very important in this process, for supporting the shrimping industry in both Texas and U.S. Texas recently passed legislation to help our struggling shrimp industry and shrimping communities. Although the legislation does not cure all of the ills in our industry, it is the start of a conversation, and that's very important. And hope this conversation will continue into the future to further assist the shrimp industry in its fight for survival. Please continue to reach out to us as you need to, so that we can improve shrimpers' lives and livelihoods. We know the problems that are affecting the shrimping industry. There are a lot of them, unfortunately. Insufficient FDA testing of imported shrimp into the U.S., the low tariffs, our own tax dollars that are being used by the World Bank to actually fund loans in these third world countries that are putting in shrimp farms that are competing as the shrimp come back into the U.S. to lower your prices. And that's with your tax money. And there's a law, a federal law that they're trying to pass this year that will help with that. High fuel costs, we know that. Foreign countries are using child labor, slave labor, forced labor to harvest and produce foreign shrimp. Contaminated shrimp are in freezers all around the U.S. 1.8 billion pounds of shrimp were imported into the U.S. last year. The U.S. people only ate 1.6 billion. So there were 0.2 billion pounds in freezers, in addition to the shrimp that y'all produced, that are sitting in freezers. Now, the FDA is only testing between 0.1 and 1% of those shrimp. So the shrimp coming in that are contaminated very possibly can get by the FDA and end up in your freezers and in the restaurants where you eat. So that is a huge, enormous concern. There's also something called IUU, which is illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing products that are being imported into the U.S. They contain unsafe and contaminated shrimp that's dumped upon our U.S. market. It produces a very unfair playing field. We also have these wind turbine farms that they keep trying to put on our coast. And unfortunately, the one in Port Arthur is going through in Sabine Lake. God help us. We also know we have solutions to those problems. The federal government needs to enforce the 2016 law that prohibits importing shrimp products that are produced in whole or in part by slave, forced, or child labor. That is a law that's on the books already, but it's not being enforced like it's supposed to be. U.S. Representative Troy Niels has a Save Our Shrimpers Act of 2025, and this will help stop U.S. tax dollars from funding those foreign shrimp farms, which then ship the underpriced shrimp to the U.S. to further reduce prices that you guys are being paid at the docks. We also want to raise tariffs on imported shrimp to increase the cost of the artificially low-priced shrimp coming in. A lot of countries subsidize, like Vietnam, will subsidize the shrimp coming back into the United States, so their price is really low, but they're still making their money. but then it comes into the US and it forces y'all's prices down even lower at the docks. We want to make sure that the US drills more oil, which will help improve our fuel costs. Drill, baby, drill, just like Trump says. Enforce the law for shrimp products that prohibits importing products produced in whole or in part by slave, forced, or child labor in the shrimp supply chain. There is a U.S. law in the Senate. It's Senator Sullivan's Fish Act of 2025. It's Senate Bill 688, which will create a blacklist of foreign ships involved in the illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing of the shrimping industry. What we want is a fair playing field. What we have now is not a fair playing field. Seems like everybody else has the advantage except for us. Vessels on that list are banned from importing their products into the U.S. These shipments would be subject to seizure and forfeiture to the U.S., which means they're not going to profit from it. And hopefully it eventually convince them to stop doing that and go someplace else. We want to reauthorize the Magnuson-Stevens Fishery Conservation and Management Act. There is something called Section 609 certification. Y'all have to pull TEDs, okay, because of the Magnuson Act. They're trying to protect the endangered sea turtles, like the Kemp's Ridley turtles. And for wild-caught shrimp in the U.S., you've got to use the TEDs. Other countries, because of the same law, are supposed to be doing the exact same thing. Again, we want the fair playing field. If they're not carrying or having the TEDs on their nets, they don't have that big hole that y'all have in your nets, okay? So they're able to produce more shrimp and make more money. And also it endangers the endangered sea turtles. So we want to make sure that they're having to play by the same rules that y'all have to. Some countries dump shrimp onto our market despite not having a Section 609 certification. As a country, it has to be certified, and they get a certificate. And in order to bring shrimp into the United States to import it, they are supposed to show that certification. Unfortunately, some countries have the certification when they have not done what it takes to have it. In other words, they're not pulling those TEDs like they're supposed to. Okay. Something we'd also like to see happen in the European Union, 50% of the shrimp is being tested as it comes in. We'd like the same thing here in the United States. Again, right now, between 0.1 and 1% is all that's being tested. Not only that, if it comes in and it's contaminated, what we would like to see it happen is it be destroyed. In the European Union, if the shrimp come onto their shores or onto the docks and it's contaminated, it's destroyed on the spot. It's not going anywhere else. It's not being sold anyplace else. In the U.S., if it's found to be contaminated, they just go to a different port. It's called port shopping. And they sell it at the other port. Because again, chances are, if only 0.1 to 1% is being actually tested, it's going to come through. And that would help food safety issues in the U.S. We would like to see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. address some of these issues, make him aware of it. And again, a lot of the concerns in the shrimping industry, these other people just don't know about. And we have to make them aware, okay? We have to raise our voices. Kyle and I have been going to the Capitol. I made four trips this year. He made 3. And it was literally pounding the floor. One time we were supposed to testify, and the time was wrong. They did it earlier, so we didn't get to testify. But we went to every single legislator that was on that commission or that committee and talked to them or to their staffers. It's a lot, a whole lot. But we did that because we're trying to advocate for y'all. We want to make sure that not just Texas shrimpers are doing better, that American shrimpers are doing better, okay? All right, thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch. There is something called the Shrimp Futures Project. We need people who are willing to come talk next week on Thursday and Friday. There's some papers out there, or there were, to tell Carissa Geraci what problems you're having in the shrimping industry, to let them know so that they're aware and maybe they can find solutions to those problems. Okay, so if you have time and you're willing to do that, maybe after them checking your TEDs and your bycatch reduction devices, if you want to come here, it's going to be here at the St. Fair Center, and help us out with that, please. Okay.
I just want to go ahead and close it out, but we have to give a hearty round of applause and thank you to Trish and for Kyle. They spent a yeoman's amount of time working to bring that information to not only the FTC, but also to our state legislators. And I don't think this would have happened without their really hard work. So let us give them a solid round of applause. I said, I've already said grace over the food. So we have wonderful chicken wings from Pho 09 in Nederland and great shrimp fried rice out there. So please fill your plates up because we got plenty of it for today and even maybe probably for your supper tonight. Don't run off without grabbing something to eat. Okay, thank you very much.